All right, I'm going to clap.
Okay, I'm nervous. It's like I'm sitting on the top of like a water slide or something, and it's like about to get a push. I'm really stressed.
Yeah, but once you're in the water slide, it's fine.
Oh no, I screamed the whole time.
All right, that is
ask
going.
Beck and Katie.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Chip Lunch Podcast. Very cool to have you all. I am joined. We didn't actually introduce ourselves last episode, Brayden.
Do we need to?
I think we do, especially if we're going to do this and randomly throw things like Gemma at people. Hello, Gemma.
Hello, how you going?
So we've got myself, Ethan, we've got Brayden, and we've got Gemma.
You.
Hello. It's very exciting to have you on the podcast, Gemma. Brayden had the idea to ask an opening question of after last episode's discussion with Joel about chicken salt.
Yeah.
Gemma, what do you prefer?
Chicken salt, obviously.
Of
It's
course.
the correct answer, Joel. It is
Sorry,
correct.
Unlucky
got
Joel.
With tomato sauce also.
Yes. As soon as he said he didn't like chicken salt, the next episode he was gone.
Take note.
Yeah, you're out. Booted.
for all of those people, potential guests,
Yeah.
and potential Patreon subscribers, we don't actually accept you if you don't like chicken salt.
Do you have a local, Gemma? Where do you get chips from?
Oh, I don't know. Okay, so I used to live in Padstow, and there was this like amazing chicken shop, and I reckon they have the best chips. But the owners changed now, so it's not the same chips. But since I've moved into the Shire, I've gone across the bridge, the multiple bridges that you have to go across to come into the Shire from Padstow. I haven't really found a place where I'm like, those chips are good. But if I was to say, I go to Flamin' Chicks in Janelli, so it's kind of a vibe.
Shout
I know
out.
the guy who owns it, so that's also a bonus. But
Throw in a few extra chicken tenders.
Oh,
yeah, that's
the
a bit
goal.
of extra chicken salt, I think.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, it's about who you know.
that's it. Who you know really gets you far in life.
I am so keen to get to a point with this podcast where we're sponsored by
Flamin' Chicks.
Flamin' Chicks. I'll see what I can do.
This is where it begins.
That's it.
Hit us up.
Yeah. Oh, that is so good. Well, Gemma, one of the things that we have already shared is we, in the past, have talked about how we became Christians.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the things we like talking about. We're talking about being a Christian in today's day and age, what that's like. We thought we'd ask you, how did you become a Christian, Gemma?
Yeah, well, I grew up in a Christian family, but I actually don't think I really became a Christian till like the end of primary school. I feel like when you're a kid and you grow up in a Christian family, you're always kind of like, oh yeah, like I know about Jesus, like I know about all the stories, like Noah, like you know all the classics. They pull them out at Sunday school, you know, all of those things. And I feel like I always like believed it was true. Like I never kind of was like, oh, I don't reckon that's real. But I think when I was like towards the end of primary school, so like year 6, I kind of realized that it's like about the relationship that you have with God. So I kind of started thinking about that a little bit more, and I don't actually remember a specific moment. There were kind of a few things that happened in year 6. I was exposed to like the first like family death. I know it's kind of like a bit of a downer, but my great grandmother passed away, and that was kind of like, I wasn't heaps close with her. I didn't have much to do with her because like I was quite young. But I feel like the first time you're exposed to someone in your family passing away is like quite a big thing, and it makes you kind of think about life. So that was kind of the first thing that happened. And I also had been invited along to a youth group by one of my friends, because I feel like when you're in year 6, it's that awkward, like you can't go to youth group, but there's like all these like kids activities that are on that are kind of like catered to more younger primary school. So I was kind of like, okay, I'll give this a go. And that was really cool to kind of be exposed to that. And I just remember at some point in year 6, like I really can't pinpoint it, but I remember talking to mum and just being like, hey, like I think I want to say like the prayer to like take my faith on for myself. And that was kind of the first moment. But I think throughout my like walk with God, I have had moments like that where I've been like, I feel like I need to reaffirm like the, I guess, trust that I've put in God. So I think there's been moments throughout high school and through life where I've kind of been like, God is still chipping away at my heart, and yeah, kind of exposing me to new things that kind of make me reconsider my faith. But yeah, I feel like that's kind of the story.
It's a really cool one. We were having a conversation recently with a lady who was talking about how when she was growing up, or actually for a long time, she's thought because she came from a Christian family, her story was really boring. And I think the conversation ended with this common understanding of actually none of them are boring because they're about how Jesus has worked in someone's life. And I think that's really, really cool and really special. And yeah, really cool that you got to a point where you're in year 6 and you're like, actually, I realize that this is not just a thing that I'm doing because my family are doing it. It's something I want to make my own. I think that's really cool. But then you hit high school and you're a Christian in high school.
Yeah.
What was that like?
Well, I feel like it's quite interesting because I feel like more doors open for you when you're in high school, like church-wise. Like you get to kind of go to youth group, and there's like I started leading like at our kids ministry. Like I feel like there were lots of opportunities for me to kind of get involved and do stuff, which was actually really great for my faith. But I also think you're exposed to a lot of things that other people are doing, or I also like grew up in the dance realm. Which
scary dance.
I know, I didn't know if I should bring that up, but but I think there's definitely when, I don't know, I feel like it's like any sport where you're kind of exposed to people that like aren't like you, because I was at a Christian school, so I was going to school with lots of like-minded people and I was taught by like-minded people, which doesn't mean there's not like people who aren't Christian in Christian schools, if that makes sense, if I said that right. But yeah, I feel like when you're exposed to how other people kind of do life, that also raises a lot of questions for you. I think as well, I always would like go to our youth camp and be like, oh my gosh, Jesus is the best, like loving my life. And then like 3 weeks later be like, oh yeah, so haven't really like thought much about God, or haven't really, I don't know, stuck to my habits that I kind of put in place to kind of stay on track. But I think, it's really interesting in high school because I feel like you're going through a lot as a person, but you're also trying to hold on to this thing that you kind of like say is where your identity is, I guess. But other people are finding where their identity lies, and it's not often the same thing.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you find, so like Ethan and I and even Joel went to public schools, and I think that has its own set of different challenges, but also the Christian school thing also has different, like again, different challenges. How did you find being a Christian in a Christian high school? Like, is there anything that springs to mind, or?
Yeah, I was kind of having a think about this because I kind of knew that you were going to go down the school road.
We'll end up there.
I kind of reflect on my school experience being a really positive thing for my faith.
Yeah.
But I don't think that was because of my peers. I think that's like huge.
That's really interesting.
Huge props to the teachers. I feel like when you're educated by people who are like-minded or who are open to like your faith and want to encourage you in that, I feel like that was kind of what helped me through school. I think I have so many close friends that are Christians and like were respecting of it and whatever, but I think when the teachers are kind of modeling what it is to live like a godly life, I think when you're a teenager you don't quite know how to do that yet, so I feel like you're surrounded by people who are kind of like, they're like, oh yeah, I'm a Christian, but I'm going to go and do all these things, or I'm going to go party, or I'm like, you know, those kind of things. I feel like when you're a teenager there's lots of grey and you're not quite sure what you're meant to be doing, but I think having adults kind of model that every day is that was really valuable for me.
Absolutely.
My fiance went to school with you.
Yes, she did.
Yes, just in case you didn't
for the
know.
resties.
And I went to, I think it was the graduation. It was some assembly. We'd just been dating for a little while at the time, and it was the only time I'd ever been to a Christian school to do anything.
That is also the only time I have ever been to a Christian school to do anything was my wife's graduation.
Well, there you go. And
Yes,
were
also the same
you?
school.
Were you? I was absolutely shook by this. So I got in. I'm sitting down, and everyone stands up and sings a Christian song, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Pardon? Like
Yeah.
what is?" And I felt like not wanting to stand up. Like I was like, "What is
You're
going?"
like, what is this? Yeah.
It was really weird culturally for me
Yeah.
to be like, what, this doesn't feel like my church brain isn't
Yeah.
here.
This doesn't
Yeah.
go together with my school brain.
Yeah, and they like the principal gets up and he prays,
Yeah.
and I'm like, pardon? Like even that was just
Yeah.
like, what is going on in
Yeah.
this? Yeah, that school brain,
Yeah.
church brain was
Yeah.
just like I just wasn't expecting. It's actually quite amazing
Yeah.
as an institutional thing.
Mm.
When you were there, was that like it would have just felt normal because that was
Yeah.
that was what you did. But was there any particular elements of that you really, or maybe alongside the whole teacher thing, but there any particular elements of that you really grew from or took away?
Well, that's a big question. I think just quickly on the singing thing,
Yeah.
I actually feel like it's also weird for the students there.
Okay, so I wasn't. Yeah.
Because-
Okay, cool. So I wasn't
No,
just
it's
like
actually
this is
like
weird.
it's so great, and I like really love that the school like valued doing that and wanted to encourage like worship and praise, singing praises to God. But I do think it's like being in the playground and you kind of look around and you're like, okay, over there's that group and over here's that group, and you kind of look around the assembly and it's like, okay, these people are like kind of swaying, so they are kind of into it, and these people are like, these people are not even singing, so
That
they're
is
definitely
so
not into it.
good.
So it's kind of like a little bit of a, what will I choose to do? Like, will I
Yeah.
choose to kind
Wow.
of sing and actually like get into it, or will I kind of, you know, be like keeping my mouth really closed, or like,
Yeah.
I don't know, trying not to draw attention to the fact that I'm like doing this because I want to like worship and praise God. So I
That's
feel
so
like
cool.
it's not just weird for people who are coming. Like I feel like culturally, like trying to do that in a school is a weird thing too.
I think even I'd actually love to do a whole podcast episode on this, but I was chatting to someone the other day about the fact that singing in church is a really weird thing.
Oh, 100%.
Like
Like it's so great, but it's weird.
so weird.
Yeah.
Like there is no other context where you all stand up and there's words on the screen and you
Yeah.
sing them. And like you'll go to
Yeah.
a gig, but the people singing are only singing because they know every word and
Yeah.
they're yelling
Yeah.
it.
They're just yelling at someone,
like
and
at a
there's no
sport
words
game.
on the screen or whatever.
Yeah.
And if there is words on the screen in a sport game, it's just lame.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Chanting.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, Sharks fans.
They need you now, boys.
Talkies.
The little like cowbell ding, ding, ding.
Oh.
Useless.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh goodness.
So I kind of forgot where that other question.
Oh, it doesn't
was,
even matter.
but-
I think this is more interesting. I think, yeah, it's just weird. Like there isn't any other spot, is there, in culture that we sing?
Not really.
No. Like,
I saw a video on Instagram today actually that was just this girl walking through through this corridor being like, when I'm listening to music in public, and she's like walking normally, and then it's like when I'm listening to music alone, she's like dancing outrageously. And I think one of the only and singing was where I was getting to with that. She was like singing every word and yelling the words, and I think there's a really weird thing where singing and is only for either like those particular contexts, like the yelling at a gig
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
the like that kind of thing, or at a sports game,
yeah.
or like home alone in front of your mirror or in your
Yeah,
shower, just like,
totally.
yeah. Or in
Yeah.
your case, like musicals and things.
Yeah.
But even that's not like people sitting in the crowd being like, yeah.
Yeah. So most of the time, unless it's like a jukebox show where people like know the song.
I
Like
don't know what that is.
so like if you're watching Mamma Mia,
Right.
and because they're all ABBA songs, people are going to be like vibing to the ABBA songs because they all know the songs.
But do they sing?
Sometimes.
Really?
Sometimes. You get some pretty rowdy people at these kind of events.
The
I was at a
hardcore
show
ABBA
once
fans.
that's like about Carole King, and I was with a friend and we were sitting behind this lovely old couple, and there was just this really like serious moment where they're like singing this really beautiful song, but the couple in front of us decided that was a really appropriate time to also sing along. And amazing. Me and my friend, we were just like trying not to laugh. And at the end of the song, they had like this moment where there was like a joke, so everyone laughed, and we were like, like trying to like let out all this like awkward, like, oh my gosh, what did we just witness kind of thing. But it was great. But yeah, singing, you don't really sing in other contexts, I think. And I think trying to take something from one context, it's like anything. It's like when you move something from one context to another, it's not always going to be the perfect fit because it belongs in that other context, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I feel like the assembly is kind of like a church service, like the way it was kind of set up. Normally someone would get up and like say a devotional, there might be a song, there might be some prayer, which is just like church. But we're at school with like probably majority of the people sitting there are actually not interested in what's going on or don't want to participate in that.
Assembly.
Like a normal school assembly. Yeah. So it's kind of like one of those things that is a little bit weird, but I think you can really pick who's kind of where when you're in those situations.
You said the teachers were very helpful. Your peers maybe not so helpful. Can you think of any, like, do you think for some of the people who were there that like school and Christianity, school and faith mashed together, do you reckon that had a negative impact for some people?
I think yes and no. I think just reflecting back, I think with the peers thing, it's not necessarily that the peers that like I'm still friends with now and were not a good influence, but I think when I was in early high school, you're kind of trying to find your place. And absolutely. I think the peers that I was surrounding myself with were not helpful. But yeah, that's kind of, I kind of want to clarify that because I feel like I did have lots of peers. I don't want to take shots at anyone. Katie, I do love you. You're really good.
You know who you are.
But yes, I think like, looking at my report cards from like year 7 and 8 and 9, that really says a lot about who I was like trying to be. And I think later on I really changed that. So I think, with the being in a Christian school, and maybe that not being helpful, I think for some people it would be like, depending how you look at Christianity, I guess for some people it might be like, oh, I get Jesus every day. Like I talk about church all the time. Everything is like, you've kind of got this bubble where it's just like, this is what we all talk about. This is kind of overarching everything that we do. But I think for some people that's what they really need. Like I was kind of thinking about this because I like went to church like on Fridays for youth, like I did Sunday morning, like I was leading kids, like I was doing all the kind of things at church. But I actually think having the Christian school stuff as well really set in place like a pretty good foundation for coming out of school. Like I think for some people it would be like stepping out of school and being like, oh my gosh, there's all these things that like I can see and do. But I think for me it was like, okay, I've been grounded now. I've kind of set up who I am, where my identity is. And like that did get shaken like when I finished school, but I think it really helped me kind of have a pretty solid foundation.
Absolutely. How did you find that youth and that context played together?
Yeah, I think we had a really interesting year group at school because at one point in, I think like year 11 or year 12, like 40 kids from my grade at school, which like is a pretty large percent with like only 60 kids in our grade, which is very different to you guys. I was about to be
like, 40 kids.
That's another difference. I feel like everyone is way more like, everyone knows everyone. Like even if you're not in their like friend group or whatever, you know that person, you know a lot about them.
Absolutely.
But yeah, like 40 out of the 60 were at our youth group, which was wild. And that
is nuts.
It is nuts. And it was so great to be doing church with all those people and to kind of have all those like-minded people. But at the same time, it actually really affected the people who weren't from our school, which was really sad and unfortunate. And I think it it was kind of a tricky situation to navigate, because how do you tell 40 kids, hey, go to different youth groups so we're all spread out? And like, why would you want to do that?
Yeah.
Like when you want your youth group to grow and you want people to be doing community with each other.
But it'd be really hard for the kid that rocks up to youth and you guys spend all week together.
So the youth group that I went to, my school and another public school were they were like both 500 meters away from the church.
Okay.
So we had about 10 kids from the public school.
Yeah.
And then 40 from our school. And then we had a few other kids from other schools as well. Yeah. But those were the kind of two like local schools that church was the closest. But yeah, it was really interesting how that kind of affected people. And I'm still really great friends with some of the girls that I like was doing youth with who were from other schools. But it's weird because I can only probably point to 2 people that weren't from my grade at school. So that was kind of interesting because I feel like we brought all the drama from school to youth, or I'd be like, let's talk about this teacher, or let's talk about this maths class, or
and the
let's
whole
talk
thing
about this
becomes,
assignment.
Look at all the in-jokes we've made during the week.
And
it's like we're just bringing them to the weekend, and everyone else is like,
it's not really 2 bubbles anymore. It's
just one bubble moving over to the other. It's like the whole context thing, like moving the school context into the youth group. Like it kind of became this big like meshed up blur, I guess. But I think the youth leaders did try and navigate it the best they could. Like I remember having lots of conversations in our Bible study being like, hey, like we're going to leave the school talk at the door. But I think that also isn't a full solution to that problem, because then, you know, if you want to talk about stuff that you've been going through or that you've experienced, like where's that line, I guess. So it's tricky. Yeah,
it is. It's finding that balance between, well, because the really positive thing is going, look at all these friends that are friends and are bringing their friendship to youth group.
100%.
And that's not an issue at all.
No.
Like that's awesome.
Yeah.
And like Brayden, you had that was kind of what was happening in your year.
Yeah, but we were like, it was like not many Christians and then a lot of non-Christians. So it was kind of like, yes, we're bringing that bubble, but also like, because we had 140 people in my year or whatever, the fact that there was like 60 of us turning up, we weren't all in the same group. Does that make sense? Like there was way more division in that group already. And though you would say like Kirrawee High dominated, it wasn't like it was one group of Kirrawee High people.
Yeah, I think that's the difference.
6
100%.
groups of Kirrawee High people.
Yeah, I think it was like the big like this school group. We all know each other, even if we're not hanging out with each other every recess and lunch. Like we would all say, "Oh yeah, they're our friends," kind of thing.
Yeah.
So moving that into the church was a little bit tricky and a really interesting experience, I think.
How did your, like, they probably didn't the same way, but what did your youth leaders do about that, Brayden?
I don't know. I think they were just they were trying to love a whole bunch of people who were coming to hang out with their friends, and just that was the only reason why they were coming.
Yeah.
Like, and they were just, they were really great and really loving and just trying to share the gospel with them on a Friday night. Like that's literally what they were doing, and they were on mission during that. And I think they did a great job. Like, I think, it was just, I think they were just excited. Like it was just a good opportunity, and everyone was coming, and not everyone was necessarily like very respondent or listening to everyone, but at least like they were there, and that's where they chose to be, at least in early high school.
Yeah, for sure.
So I think it's just different situations. I think, not necessarily one's easier or harder than the other one. It's just different challenges.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. There's always going to be challenges. One of the things, like for example, my youth experience was starting a youth group with just my friendship group, and so there is no way that could grow because it was that issue, but to the nth degree because my boys were like alpha, and so it was actually and two of us were Christians, so it was like a whole bunch of people. Literally, we were only here to hang out. Like one of our with each other. Not with the like and because of the way it started, we didn't have a venue at first, and so we were just hanging out with each other. at each other's houses. Like it was that kind of vibe. There was Greaves tells a story about we were all standing in a clump in a circle chatting, and then like Greaves or one of the other leaders would walk over and the clump would like disperse, and then everyone would like walk around and then like reconverge somewhere else. It was just what was happening. But so yes, lots of different issues at different times, but that was really fun. And like the leaders obviously ended up breaking into that, and now we're all really, really good friends. And their response to that was, we're going to keep doing this because we love these guys, and we're just going to keep loving them and encouraging them to love one another. And they won't love one another because they're year 9 boys, let alone non-Christians, but like they're year 9 boys. But what ended up happening is a bunch of them were like, yeah, actually this seems legit because we've been seeing how much you love us for years. Yeah. It didn't just happen overnight. Speaking of issues, we don't want to spend too much time on issues.
The tea. No.
Yeah. But as a female going through high school, what was it like being a Christian and a girl? Like, was it any different? I don't know.
I think so. I think girls like to talk a lot, and I think boys can just go and kick a ball. I don't know if that's a really generalized. I don't know if that's too generalized. I'm sorry, boys, if I am not fully understanding what it was like.
Especially early high school, that is pretty accurate.
Yep.
Yeah. So I think, when I kind of earlier hinted at you're going through a lot, I feel like girls really have heightened emotions for the first few years of high school. And I think you're trying to figure out who your friends are, what like clique you fit into, and you're talking about all the tea, all the goss. And really like that's something that isn't heaps godly to be doing, to talking about all the goss all the time. And I think navigating that is hard because I think you kind of learn in high school, it's like, am I talking to someone about this problem because I want to make the other person look bad? Like, what's my intention with kind of expressing issues that I have with other people? And I just remember really struggling with friends for the first few years of high school and trying to navigate what group I was meant to be in and who I was friends with. And I think that really didn't solidify till like year 10, 11. Because I think, I feel like I wanted to be like the funny kid in the class and I wanted to hang out with all the funny kids, but those people weren't showing me, or I don't know, kind of influencing me to live a godly life. So I think that was hard. And I think I feel like everyone experiences like wanting to be liked and wanting to be included and loved. And I think sometimes like in high school you're kind of trying to figure out what you need to do to get that.
100%.
And I think I did a lot of that in high school, and I don't know if that's just a girl thing. I don't think it is. But I think the ways girls and guys kind of navigate that is different.
Yes.
But yeah, there's lots of, I think friendships are hard, and you kind of, there's ebbs and flows of just kind of moving around between different groups and different people, and trying to find the people that are going to help you like walk with God is a really important thing, but isn't the easiest thing to do.
Yeah, you're trying to figure out who you are and who you are as a Christian.
Fully.
And at the same time, you're also trying to get people to like you. So it's just a recipe for trying to change yourself to fit in, or what's going to make this person like me more, what's going to make having friends easier, but then at the same time, like you don't even know what you really like yet.
And I think the things that I liked in high school and the things I enjoyed doing were not what people liked, and not things that people would like me for. So like, I don't know, I had a big interest in being in all the school productions, which I thought was like epic. Like I was like, yes, I get to be on stage, get to be in a show. And I had like maybe 2 or 3 friends that also were doing that. But it would kind of be like, oh, haha, like you're in the show, like you have to dress up in a silly costume, or you have to do this. Okay. And I think I kind of copped it a bit for that, and had people kind of say things that made it a little bit hard to be like, okay, like where's my identity now? Like, am I relying on, am I going to like be a victim and be like, oh, I'm performing arts person and people hate me for that. It's like, no, my identity is actually in Jesus. And I think I need to remember that even when it's like a bit tricky when people don't like or appreciate the same things that I do.
Yeah. We were speaking with Joel last week about how you then respond to people like criticizing you. And I think we spoke very much about like a boy's experience of like, oh, if someone pays you out, then you got to get them back quicker and you got to be smarter and you got to be faster. Like, do you feel like how do you feel like that experience went with you in high school? Was it like, like if someone's always got to like, you've got to try and get them back, or like, how did that work?
I feel like one of the things about the Christian school that I haven't really spoken about is you have like this pastoral care situation, which is kind of like homeroom. I don't know if you guys have like homeroom or we had roll call. It's like it's like the same as roll call, except the teacher that you're with is like quite like you do devotions with them and you kind of like chat with them about that kind of stuff.
Roll call, it's not a thing at Kirawee High anymore. Right. But while it was a thing, it was sit down, read, be quiet. If you make and we'll look at you and we'll make sure you're wearing the right socks. That was roll call.
Shout out to the teacher who banned us from reading Bibles in roll call.
Yes.
We weren't allowed to read a Bible.
What a
so good.
Yeah.
It's a great time.
Had to be a real book.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a bit of
which is hilarious. Like as a teacher, you're like you could if you're not a Christian, you can easily just be like, well, he's reading
a book,
fiction. Like what's the not I can't remember the difference.
I don't. Fiction is the made up one.
Yeah.
Okay, well, like you can just be like, he's reading fiction. Like, but it's still a book.
Yeah.
Like you can't just be like, that's not real.
That's well written enough to have been debated for a long time.
100%.
Yeah.
Like what?
That's wild.
Anyway.
I think
but yeah, sorry. So our parallel with roll call
is like quite different. It's
it
just
literally
the time
was
slot.
just roll call.
Yeah. So in pastoral care, there was like the marking of the roll and a bit of uniform check, like checking that we had the right socks and like for girls like
the
jewelry.
Socks was where
I
it was
used to
at.
always like just want to wear like rings on my hands, but it'd be like put them in my pockets, so like I want to get in trouble.
Rebel.
Sneaky, I know. But yeah, so we'd have that element of it, but we'd also have like devotionals and kind of like checking out on how people are going. Like it was a really nice kind of little system to have going through school, because I was actually with the same teacher from year 7 to year 12, which was really awesome. A huge blessing. And she actually like had to leave like for our last term because she had a baby, and it was like, oh my gosh, like this is so wild. Like now, but we actually had some really good times. I actually met Manda for the first time because she was doing prac and was with my pastoral care teacher, so that was really cool. I remember when I came here, I was like, oh, Miss Waddington. But yeah, so we had all that, and I just remember chatting to my pastoral care teacher when I kind of was in those situations. And one of the things she would always say, she's like, you can't control how other people are going to act.
Yeah.
And that's really hard to hear when you want people to be like, oh yeah, like you've been so, like it's been so unfair to you that they say. It's like you want people to feel sorry for you. But I think hearing that has been something I've kind of tried to carry like through life, which hasn't been easy. Like I feel like there's still times when people say stuff and it's like, oh, that really like cuts deep or whatever. Yeah. But I think that was something that I really kind of had in high school to help me with those situations. And I think I also had I had my people that I like knew were like safe and I knew I could talk to, and like when Jake and I started dating, like I would talk to him about it, and that was a really nice thing to kind of chat that out and be like, hey, like this is really hard. Yeah. But yeah, that's kind of how that was navigated, I guess. Yeah. Especially in year 12, Jake and I were both kind of in the same situation. We were both doing the show with one other person in year 12, or a few others. And I just remember people being like, that is so lame. And like when we'd have to get up and do like the little teaser of the show or whatever, it'd be like, I'm really dreading this. But we'd both kind of be doing that like together, and we'd be like, yeah, that was a little bit tricky, but like that was also really fun and cool that we could perform and do that. So like, I don't know. Got to balance out the pros and cons.
Of course.
Shout out to Jake. It's Gemma's fiance.
Beautiful man.
If you know, you know.
But yeah, so
And if you don't, his name rhymes with snake. That's literally all it is.
So you said like pastoral care was was like, and the teachers were a great role model. Like, how did how are your parents as like Christians in high school? How did you find that? You can throw them under the bus, by the way.
No, I'm not going to throw Glenn and Suzanne under the bus. They are so good. I feel like after I like have gotten engaged and like am thinking about, you know, leaving home, I've really been thinking about how like blessed I have been, and I really have like taken that blessed hashtag blessed. Yeah, I just think I don't realize how good they are sometimes. But we don't have heaps of conversations, but I think for me it's more watching how they kind of go about life and how they model Jesus to me. And I think that has been something all through my childhood and through to like adolescence and growing up and like, you know, planning to move out. Like that is something that I've witnessed and been like, hey, I really admire that, and I admire the selflessness they both have and how they model Christ and want to, you know, reflect that in their marriage, but also as parents. But yeah, I think they've also been a huge like support system in that, and have always encouraged me to go to youth group, always kind of like, even when I was kind of like, oh, I don't know if like it's the vibe or whatever, or like that was a priority, like going to church was a priority. And they encourage that, which I think is really important when you're a teenager, because sometimes you think something is really good for you and it's not. And listening to your parents isn't what you always want to do, but I think that was really good that they kind of always pushed that. But yeah,
isn't ever what you want to do.
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so that was really cool.
So so we've talked a lot about youth and school, and you're obviously a youth leader now.
Yes.
Crazy.
Wild. We've come full circle now.
Do you see lots of parallels between the things that your youth girls are going through now and your experience through high school?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's really wild when you become like a youth leader and you kind of like, once you're far away enough from school that you can kind of be like, oh my gosh, was I like that? Like were my problems like, you know, when it's like, let's talk about boys the whole time, or like things like that. Like, was I like that? Like, did I do that? Like,
is the answer to that ever yes? You're just like,
oh yeah. I sometimes look at my girls. I love them, but I'm just like, oh, I was really like that, and that was not. That was a lot. That was an intense time. But I also feel like there's some things that I see in them that like I'm kind of experiencing now. Like I feel like our world is so hectic and so crazy, and I think kind of doing life with them isn't always about like, you know, trying to give them advice and trying to disciple to them so they can like look up. But I think there's lots of like reaching down that happens. Like I think I learn a lot from them, and I really find myself taken aback sometimes of how like their school experience is like compared to mine, and I really am encouraged and inspired by them. So I think it's a really like, it's a two-way street kind of give and take thing.
You want to explain that reaching down concept?
Yeah, so I think we've kind of spoken about this in Berea a few times, where it's kind of like in a church community you want to be able to reach up, reach down and reach out. Is that right?
I think that's right.
I feel like there's something in the middle. There's something where you like reach out to your peers and like people your age, but you reach up to people who are older than you, and reach down to people who are younger than you. And I think that's part of what makes Soli's work really well. I think we reach down a lot, and I think that's a really awesome thing.
And it's about who you're learning from, and who you're giving to. Like it's not when I want to learn something, I don't just go to the people around me, and I don't just go to my elders. You actually end up learning from people younger than you, like you were saying.
That's right.
And it works in the same as you're being, when you're friends with people, you're not just reaching out to the people around you. It's about reaching up and reaching down as well, which is really cool. And I think a big part of youth leading in general is that whole reach down concept is really cool, because especially when they don't want to reach up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Because,
right.
Like often they're like, oh, who's this weirdo? And they like it, and that
Yeah, it takes
changes
time.
after a while
Yeah.
because they realize, oh, you actually just want to be mates with them.
Yeah.
And that's really special. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and it's the
that's all I
difference
had.
between just just being an event organizer and being their
Fully.
friend. You know,
Yeah.
what I mean?
Fully.
Like you're not just their, hey, you come here and we organize something and you do it. You're not just
Yeah.
like their netball coach or
Yeah.
their anything.
I went
Yeah.
to tennis coach, which is really weird.
I love that I couldn't think. I
Netball,
literally
tennis.
couldn't. I was like, guitar teacher.
Yeah.
Those
Yeah.
things that I did.
Yeah.
All the netball that I played.
But that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Like I went to
A pro
tennis before I
netballer.
went to anything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not just their tennis coach. But like, you're actually trying to be friends with them.
Fully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. How have you found that, Brayden, being like going through youth and
Yeah.
then also eventually going back and being a youth leader?
Yeah.
Like what does that all felt like?
I think I resisted coming back to youth for a little while because I held my leaders in such high regard. I think they did such an awesome job that I was a bit like, oh, I don't know if I can live up to being
Yeah.
able to do that. Because they were just so great at doing that reaching down thing, and also just like being mates. Like I can just remember, like they just like rocked up one day just to like see how we were doing after we hadn't been to youth for a couple of weeks.
Very
and
cool.
like I can't imagine like going with another youth leader and just like dealing with my parents who are very anti-Christian, and they did things like in the school holidays we would hang out and like we would do bushwalks, or like one of the times we tried to watch all the Star Wars movies back to back, and we started with Phantom Menace.
Oh,
so we started
no.
with the worst
Oh
one.
no.
And I just remember getting partway through, getting to the start of Empire Strikes Back, just after the Hoth bit,
Yeah.
and I was like, nah. Like we're finally at the good one. We're at the best one, and we just went across and started playing music in the church hall because we just couldn't do it anymore.
That is amazing.
But yeah, like they went above and beyond to do those type of things, and I think that's what inspires me to try and like be a better youth leader and be their friend, and especially because you just see how special that relationship can be, and how what a great they might not be that receptive at the time, but especially for like kids who maybe don't have the best context or don't have good Christian context, whether they came from a non-Christian background or a Christian background.
Yeah, fully.
Like you can really help someone through difficult things in that
Yeah.
position. So it really is like a privileged position that I take really seriously. And it's like my favorite thing to do. What are you laughing at?
My stomach's crumbling.
It was really long too.
It was. I was like, oh no. I was like, be quiet, Tommy, be quiet.
Directional microphones. That's what's helpful.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
Brayden.
Sorry.
I
It was
can't
like
even
really
remember.
important too.
I can't remember.
Yeah, it was really
I've
good. I was like,
blown
this is powerful stuff.
I was like,
can't-
no, I've
I
used the
was
long
like,
word again.
It's like when you're in an exam and you're like, shh.
Quiet.
Oh,
Sorry,
so
guys.
good.
Hopefully that won't happen again.
It's all good.
Oh,
How do you
amazing.
find being a youth leader, Ethan?
Oh, yeah. It's similar kind of situation. It was my youth leaders. By the time I got to becoming a youth leader, one of the reasons I wanted to be a youth leader is so I could continue being mates with my youth leaders.
Yeah.
I was like, these guys are so much fun to hang out with and are at this point my friends. And so I want to like do what they do.
Yeah.
And like to the point where two of my leaders are in my bridal party. You weren't my leader, were you, Brayden? Had you started by that
Grey
point?
area.
Grey area?
I think you were a light leader, but I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah. Well, there you go. Well,
I might have
maybe
been your
it's
leader
3.
for a little bit.
Okay. Well, maybe it's 3 of my youth leaders who are in my bridal party. But either way, like,
When
Yeah,
I
that's
started
crazy.
youth leading.
but yeah, I don't know if we crossed over much. But by the time we were leading together, which was very dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was really cool to be such good mates with those guys. That I was like, yeah, this is something I want to keep doing because I want to encourage the people that are younger than us to also be mates with us. I think it's a great way to stay at church. Like it's
Yeah.
a sick way to go.
Totally.
We want to, instead of just getting that drop off, because like, I don't know if you found it, Gemma, especially with the Christian school and such big numbers, that there may have been a point where everyone was like, I don't want to do it anymore.
Yeah.
And I think being friends is a really cool way of preventing that.
Yeah.
And it isn't fail safe and
Yeah.
at all. Like that's not
Yeah.
what I'm saying, but I think it's a really important part of it. A really important part of it is going, hey, we really want to be friends with you and show you the
Yeah.
love of Jesus. Do you want to talk to that? You
Yeah.
you visibly were like, yes.
Sorry, I just like really was like, oh my gosh. Like I just like thought of all these things. So I feel like I kind of had a weird experience because in year 12, that was when I first visited Soli's. So I was at another church and I popped in here to visit because it was Jake's, where his family went for church. But yeah, I kind of remember in year 12, there just being this point. It's like as soon as everyone turned 18, it was like, see you later. And they kind of left the youth group. But I don't really remember feeling like much was done about that. I feel like there wasn't really a place for year 12. One thing that I really like about here is that year 11 and 12 get to come to late night and kind of get integrated into the young adults community a bit earlier, because I feel like what happens if you don't do that is you've kind of got like these really tight year groups that are kind of slowly coming through, but as they get closer to kind of being a part of the young adults is already so established and you're so established that those two things don't really go heaps well together. And I had a few connections with some of the young adults, but that was only because I was a leader of like the kids ministry. So I think like 100%, if you do ministry with people, like that's where your connections are made. Like I think I made friends when I first came to Soli's, but I think those friendships really solidified after joining the youth team. And I think those people have just become like another little like family kind of group.
It's also good because we hang out more.
We hang
like
out
it's not
so
just
much,
rocking up to church once a week.
Yeah.
That's right.
It's we're hanging out at least twice a week. And
Yeah.
if we're not hanging out twice a week, we end up in Bible studies together. And if we're not in Bible studies together, we end up being in things like going to youth meetings or just
Or end up working together.
Or end up working.
I feel like that had to come at some point.
I feel like we probably. I think I went too. I actually felt bad halfway through this conversation because I was like, we went way too quick into talking about important things.
Is this just like a little break now?
Sure. Let's have a break from talking about important things. Gemma, where do you work?
I work at Grace Point Activity Centre.
Brayden, where did you used to work?
Grace Point Activity Centre.
Ethan, where do you work? Grace Point Activity Centre.
It's like a reunion because Brayden doesn't work there anymore and it's really sad.
It's just sad.
We miss you.
We do miss you. Well, legit,
we do.
One of the ladies at work literally like I reckon once every 2 weeks it's like, I miss Brayden. Does Brayden miss us?
I don't miss early mornings, but I do miss getting paid to play handball.
It's so good being paid to play, like absolute winner.
And once kids found out that I am fairly mediocre but better than them at drawing, I was can you draw me a Pikachu? Yeah, whatever. I get paid to draw a couple of Pikachus.
Yeah, if you do anything for an hour, because we're being paid by the hour, you technically got paid to do that thing.
Yeah.
And so I like to call myself a professional soccer player. Yeah. So I'm paid to play soccer.
Every day it's soccer, my goodness.
It's beautiful.
We love it.
Doesn't increase my skill at all.
I know, my skills are absolute zero, but they still go, Gemma, can you play? And I'm like, I really cannot play, but I'll stand around and pretend to play. Yeah, they fully said to me yesterday, they were like, you have longer legs than us, so you must be better than us. And I was like, wow, that is some really interesting logic there. Not correct logic, but I think I just gave it a go, stood in goals. And then whenever I like miss or like don't get something right, they're like, oh, Gemma, oh my gosh, my stomach again. Guys, next time I'm going to bring chips, just saying.
Oh.
They were like, you didn't get the goal that time, so someone else needs to go in goals now. It's like, okay, but then as soon as that person misses, they're like, Gemma, we need you back in goals. It's like, make up your mind. Can I just be in one spot? Do I need to keep moving around? Anyway, it's good for the fitness. It's good for the exercise. Bit of a light jog. And then I yesterday was the one who had to keep going and getting the ball. I was like, I thought this was what the kids were for, to run after the ball. I didn't realize it was my job. But
It's because you're goalkeeper.
yeah, it's a bit unfortunate.
Yeah, it's always their job.
Well, I had to supervise. I should have said, I need to supervise. Someone go and get the ball.
You go get it. This is our life, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, it is. We love it.
I'm a
We love
recovering addict over here.
Yeah. It's taken some time to bring up these.
Yeah. There's a lot of
Situations.
emotions swelling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's so good.
But yeah, I was thinking about the day. I was like, oh, like it'll be a really sad day when like one of us isn't there anymore. I feel like that will just be devastating.
Be very sad.
Yeah.
Be all
Won't
alone.
be, I know. Nobody here beside me. Anyway, that's no more walkie-talkie chats.
Yeah, it'll be tragic. But now we've got podcasts, which are slightly higher audio quality.
Just slightly. We should like do a little segment. My ringer doesn't even work anymore, so I should be like, hey guys. Can
We've
anyone
hit
hear
that
me?
niche time of the podcast when
Yeah,
you're
sorry.
talking about walkie-talkie quality.
Yeah, it's a great time.
For all you walkie-talkie enthusiasts who also like Christian podcasts,
Hit us up.
we're the market for you.
I think we've had 2 sponsors today. Just
Flamin'
wanna-
Chicks.
Flamin' Chicks and I think Kmart walkie-talkies.
Kmart walkie-talkies. Everyone get on it.
So good.
Yeah, so that was a good little,
I nearly
good little
revealed.
banter.
I nearly revealed the channel that we're all on to the world.
Don't find out the channel.
What you can do though is jump on the Discord.
Yes.
Link in the description. Ask questions about Chip Lunch and other things.
It's like a walkie-talkie, only better.
There we go. We've done it. This was all a big ad.
The whole time we've come full circle. Oh my gosh,
Amazing.
my stomach, guys.
The mic can't hear it. The mic
can't hear it.
picking up your
I
voice.
couldn't even hear that one.
You could just ignore it.
I know, but I'm like holding my tongue like this. I'm
No,
like,
the world needs to know.
the world needs to know. Okay, I'm sorry.
It's
I never
real.
get hungry. I don't understand. I don't understand.
Oh. Well, on ads for walkie-talkies and Gemma being hungry, might be time to wrap it up.
I think it might be.
I think
it's
so.
a lovely way to
I think
conclude.
we've come full circle, really.
And we're supposed to plug the Discord. We've plugged the Discord.
It's good, yeah.
We've plugged all the other episodes. If you missed this one, go back. Meet Joel. He's a legend.
Yeah.
If you want to jump on to what else do we have? We have the Shock Absorber.
Yeah.
That's another cool podcast from Soul Rival Church.
Yeah.
Do we need to explain what that is about?
Nah, just jump on and find out.
Yeah, it's fine. It's awesome. And there's also just our church one, which you can listen to our gatherings. Joel said something really inspirational at the end of the last podcast.
Yeah.
And I didn't prepare anything inspirational.
So the onus is left with Gemma. Gemma,
It
do you
is.
have anything inspirational to leave us with?
Oh, as if you're asking me to think of something.
It was like a quote from a devotional. It was real powerful.
Yeah, I don't think I can match that level,
All
but
right, go Gemma.
keep it real.
Hey, that'll do. And with that note,
Stay
ladies and
cool.
gentlemen, one way.
One way. Keep it cool. Stay fresh.
Keep it real.